My name's Brad Laddusaw, president of the California Mortgage Association, and I'm here this morning with Elizabeth Knight with PLM Family of Companies. One thing that with CMA we want to stress and highlight over the course of the year is not only our vendors, but our sponsors and the practitioners behind the scenes that one allows CMA to function, but also are very involved with the association and in Sacramento. So with that being said, rather than me introduce you, Liz, would you mind introducing yourself and your company and the services that you guys provide?
My name's Elizabeth Knight, and it's Liz to my friends. So I know that when someone calls and says, "Oh, I've known Elizabeth for years and we're really good friends," the person at the front desk knows that's simply not true. so, so if you really want to get to me, really, you just have to say, "May I speak with Liz?" And then they'll go, "Oh, they must know Liz," because otherwise they'd be calling her Elizabeth. So that's your kind of easiest ticket in the door. Otherwise, they'll think you're a salesperson. PLM Family of Companies. There's three companies. There's PLM Lender Services Inc. Oh no.
And we were
Hold on.
live, so that's okay. I expect that to happen. Liz, I'd be more concerned if your phone wasn't ringing. I'd be like, are you sure you're running three companies? So,
Yeah, you know what? We let that go to voicemail, and then I'll fix it. I'm so sorry. It was on mute until Brad and I started going back and forth on a telephone call, going, "Hey, how do we get set up on this?" Because this was a new
and
app
I
for
am
us.
not tech savvy whatsoever.
So I'm gonna do this, okay? And you can really tell, yes, we're live. So that should have done that. Um, or maybe not. Now that I think about it, Brad, that probably didn't do it. Let me just put it
well, we'll
back on
find
Do
out.
Not
We'll see how
Disturb from
busy you guys
here.
actually are at 9:45 here on a
Our
Thursday.
phones are busy all the time, and we answer them all the time. We are not on any type of service. When you call PLM, you're going to get a human being,
And I
and
think
that.
we'll definitely be drilling into that, how you differentiate yourselves from your competitors, things of that sort. But
But
PLM Family of Companies.
company-wise, so PLM Lender Services Inc. is the loan servicing company. PLM Loan Management Services Inc. is the foreclosure trustee, and PLM Loan Processing Center is the doc drawing company.
Very good. And then you also carry personally a broker's license as well, right?
I am a broker and have been since 1985.
So since 85, so before PLM Family of Companies, so did you always know you're going to be going into loan servicing, docs, and foreclosure, or how'd you get your start in real estate? Because you're
Um,
hyper focused now, but how
hyper
was
focus,
like
always
learning the
always
journey?
have been hyper focused.
Okay.
I was one of those kids in school, was going to graduate early, knew I was going to college, but knew I was putting myself through college, so I knew I'd be going to college at night. Started going to college my last year of high school to get a jump on it. They would not let me graduate early from high school because I was a year ahead. So they said, "Here, we'll put you in vocational center." And I got to say, I think everyone should have to go to a vocational center because when you come out of a vocational center, you have a workable skill. So my skill was I went into loan processing. Loan processing, and I know you're going, what is that? Like, what is happening with that? That was in the beginning of time, right? Like that was when Memorex was out there and Videc was out there and all these cool things that did word processing, not computers, just word processing. And that was a huge jump. So anyway, I came out of that. I got offered a position right away. I worked at Memorex during my as an intern in my beginning of life in this word processing during high school. So I went to vocational center in the morning, worked at Memorex in the afternoon, and went to college at night. So after I graduated from high school, because now I've graduated after my vocational center, um, I was all set up to set up centers. And I was like, this is going to be great. I came out of school. I was making so much money. It was ridiculous. I was making four times rent. So I was
And that's right
getting
out of
my
school. So that's kind of unheard of.
right
Yeah.
out of high school. Yeah,
Yeah.
just come. Yeah, so four times rent was like huge, right? Actually, it was more than that. It was, oh, wait, let me do my math. It was eight times rent. Eight times rent. Eight times rent. If you can imagine now how much money you're making per month if you were paying 4,000 a month, right?
Yeah.
Eight times rent when you're
Yeah.
18 years old. So anyway, I started my job. and I was all excited about it. And then within a very short period of time, became very disenchanted with it, and literally hated my life.
Were you just bored with it, or is it became too
It,
easy, or
it
just
was
kind of
so boring. It was so boring for me. And then they let me be a trainer, and that was better. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm training people to have a boring life. I cannot do this. So I answered an ad at a hard money company, a private investor
was it a
company.
newspaper ad or what?
Yeah, newspaper ad. And I walked in the door, and literally the minute my foot walked in the door, I was, it was it. I was totally sucked in because the energy in this place was amazing. Like you could feel it in the air. It was just, it was exciting. It was so busy, and the owner of that company, he was so charismatic. Now you would call him something probably different than charismatic, but other than that,
Sounds like a guy you'd want to go swing the sticks with, have a couple beers, and he could probably relate to
exactly,
anybody. Yeah.
exactly, and those guys, he could get customers like nobody's business, and his whole staff were young women like me, and everybody just worked so hard, and we just built the business from like 2 offices to 32 offices in like a 2-year period. We all worked a ton of hours, and that guy had a ton of confidence in me. I walked through the door, I took tests, I love tests, I
Yeah.
test well, and he goes, "You're going to be my superstar." And I went, "Great, just show me where to go, teach me once." And that I learned so much from him and the staff, and I accelerated very high up in the company very, very rapidly. And it was such a huge, huge learning experience, but it was exciting. I mean, it was just exciting. And
And
I
is that
still feel that way. Obviously, I still feel that
yeah?
way.
And
Yep.
I think anytime you and I are on a panel together, or you're presenting, or when we were up in Sacramento last week for Lobby Day, and you're just talking to the legislators, you're one experienced and knowledgeable in what you do, but you're also passionate about what you do, and I think that you can't fake that, you can't imitate that, and you can't teach it. It's either you have it or you don't. I'm sure your clients see that as well, and they respect that. Uh, when you started with that company, is that when you first got your salesperson license
Yes.
and working them, and then got the experience, got your broker's license?
Yes.
When did it flip internally where I'm gonna go out on my own?
Um, well, I started, PLM was Pacific Loan Management, and I started there in 1981 in March, and Pacific Loan Management had opened in November. So I had 4 years of heavy, heavy background in servicing and foreclosures, in escrow. And I ran the escrow company for the former company that I'd worked for. So when I walked through the door of Pacific Loan Management,
Mhm.
he goes, "Oh, I'm going to give you a test." I went, "Yes, I love tests. Give me the test." He goes, "I want you to type a reconveyance." And I go, "That's it? Type a reconveyance?" I go, "Okay." So I typed the reconveyance, and when we typed about 85 to 90 words a minute. You type California, all like.
Yeah.
So as I sat there typing it with him staring over my shoulder, he goes, "Well, I know you know what you're doing because you typed California like in one."
I'll just
And then he checked, and he goes, "It's perfect." I go, "It's a reconveyance. Now, if you ask me to do a whole set of loan documents, you might find a typo in one of those with you standing over my shoulder."
yeah.
But anyway, he still didn't hire me. And I thought it was weird. And he said, I called him checking in, going, "Hey, just checking in, going, what's going on?" And he goes, "Oh, I hired a woman with a British accent. I wanted someone who had a British accent." And I'm thinking, well, I don't even want to go to work for a company that would do that. So anyway, he called me a week later. He goes, "Oh my God, please come to work." And that's how it started. And Pacific Loan Management was a foreclosure company. And he was surprised I knew all about foreclosure, a lot about foreclosures. He taught me a lot. Um, and then we were servicing our own loans, and then our clients started getting rid of their servicing, and those were our foreclosure clients, right? So we're like, "Hey, we better start taking in servicing
Hmm.
because our servicing clients are going out of business, and we're going to lose our foreclosure business." So that's how we started taking in loan servicing. So then it just got crazy. Then all of a sudden we were buying companies that were Fannie Mae Freddie Mac approved, and so now we were doing A paper, and we had always known private investor money, and it was just this jump. And then one of the partners left 8 years later, and um, that left one, and I didn't feel safe with that partner, not physically, but mentally.
Qualifier.
Yeah,
Qualifier.
qualifier, not physically, mentally, because I could have taken him. But I mean, I never been worried about that. I could take him. But he had his own deal going on, and I went, look, I'm going, and look, I'm going to open my own place, and I'll keep everything branded under PLM for you, because he goes, I can't live without you. I go, I know. I know you can't. I go, but look, you can keep PLM, and I'll brand under a new company name, and when we're doing the work for PLM, we'll keep it under PLM, so you could keep it. No, that's not going to work. So anyway, it ended up me taking PLM, changing the name to PLM Lender Services, and then so it was a little bit easier for me because obviously it all just flowed. I wasn't starting from nothing. I had client base, and I had files, and I had staff, and all I obviously paid him monthly a fee to purchase the company. So that's easier than starting from ground zero, I have to say, but I would have definitely started from ground zero because I trusted myself more
Yeah,
than I trusted him
and I think it's
to run the
the
business.
being able. I mean, it starts with confidence, but not overconfidence. I feel some
Right.
people out there know enough to hurt themselves. And I also
Yes.
think that's the value of CMA. A lot of decision makers for the companies are getting together, and they're sharing the good, the bad, the ugly experiences firsthand. When did you get involved with CMA?
Oh my gosh. Um,
And
so
these
CMA
questions
was
I'm asking you now were not in any of these. None of these were on the list originally. So I told
so
you we'd
CMA was there were two organizations before. I think it was MAC was one, and there was oh my gosh, so we called it CETITBA, so the California Trustee Association of Brokers, right? CETITBA. So I was involved with CETITBA and not MAC per se, and they asked me to be on the board right away on the board of CETITBA. So that had to have been, I don't know, so long ago, but probably 1980. No, 1991 was probably when it was, because I owned the company. And so we jumped in on that, and then we were us and they were them, and we did the same thing. It was ridiculous to have two organizations, but you had two very strong people as leaders, right? And it was like, who's gonna lead? Who's gonna lead? And we had two advocates, but we all sat down, and we all made it work. We all sat down and definitely made it work. And now you have the organization that you have now. And it was a struggle in the beginning because two boards had to merge, and everybody's strong. Like
Well, let's call
everybody's
it spade a
strong.
spade. Everyone's A-type personalities, and
Yes,
it's like, this is
yes.
how the shit needs to work, and no, this is how it needs to go. And I'm
Uh-huh.
sure there is some butting of the heads,
Oh,
and
there was. Oh my goodness. And there were days I'd come home and I just go, Kevin, I honestly just cannot be on this board anymore because I myself, even though I probably get along with 90% of the world, that 10% of the world that I don't get along with, I simply don't like them. Like I don't like them. I'm not going to work with them. You will see it in my face. You will tell it in my tone. You had to have done something to me that is unforgivable. And there was people on that board that had done it to me back then. And
yeah,
and at one point there was somebody screaming at me across the table, and I'm going, "Are you kidding me? You're screaming at me across the table over this?" And he ended up, leaving and that kind of thing. But they tell you when you're not when we were growing up, but the new kids, right? The new kids on the block, and you're in that age group where they probably told you to use your words. I wasn't from that era. That's not the era I was from. It's kind of like when someone's screaming at you in your face. You got to do something about it. So anyway, took everything I had, not to grab the guy by the tie and punch him in the nose,
Not to
but I
make like a
didn't.
prison yard comparison, but you see the movies.
Yeah,
It's like, you go to jail, you find the biggest guy and you punch him in the face first or something. That's what they
that,
say in the movies. It's like you're not gonna be
exactly
doing that in a
right.
board meeting.
Exactly right. I've never been a frightened person. My mother was an extremely strong person. Everybody in the neighborhood was afraid of my mom, probably including me. And I guess that part of it passed along is like protection, protection of my staff, protection of myself, protection of my family. Um, yeah, I mean, my kids, if some kid punched my kid, I go, you punch them back. You're not going to use your words. You're not going to back down. You're going to you otherwise they will keep on you, and that's sort of like people who sue people, right? So in this business.
Yeah, and that's okay. This is a good transition because I want to
Yeah.
go into some of that, and it's so when it was first PLM Lender Services, is that what it was?
The
Company
first company, yeah, was PLM
first
Lender
first
Services,
company, and
and
that
then
was purely loan servicing.
right.
And then was foreclosure part of that loan servicing, and you were the
Yes.
trustee as well. Um,
Yes.
when did you start? Now you also provide loan doc services, correct?
Right.
So
And
when
that
did
was
you?
1995. Yeah, that was 1995, and that was because the hard money company. I hate saying hard money. I never like this private investor monies, but people just hear hard money. The original hard money company I came from, we were running 250 escrows a month. So we were running out of our escrow, the escrow department. We were running 250 sets of loan docs a month, closing 250 loans a month out of that department. So I knew loan docs extremely well, and I thought, well, there's a need for this service, so we'll start drawing loan docs for people, and that's when we started doing it in 1995.
And I'm sorry, you might hear some church bells in the background. My office is right across the street from a church, so it's almost done here. But so
Yeah.
I think that's a reason why I asked that question, because you kind of planted the seed on how easy it is to get sued in this business. It's not if, it's when you get sued when you're doing loans. So it's sort of adding, do you feel once you added loan documents to the services for your clients and loans that you were servicing as well, it kind of gave you guys a little bit higher level of confidence that in the event of, things are kind of high and tight from day one, or is it kind of indifferent?
I felt like we have a lot of confidence in our loan documents, and we're constantly growing our documents, and I feel like we're singular in that because of the way we handle loan documents, and we've always had our personal touch on them. We have a lot of review just because we're an independent, right? So you have people looking at them all the time. You have borrowers attorneys, you have lenders attorneys, you have brokers attorneys, you have brokers this and that, which is different than the people who were doing them in-house. Now you have to acknowledge that when people do their own loan documents, are they really changing them that often? They're using hard coded docs, they're not really thinking about it. Where for us as an outside service, we have to be better. You have to be better than someone doing their own docs, because otherwise they'll keep doing it. And when we're taking our docs into service, we know that we have advancing fees in there, and we know that we have all the special language to protect the lender and to protect the broker. So when we're taking in other people's loan documents, we're like, like they left off the trustee, or they didn't add up to 100, or
It's almost like you could tell they're just merging PDFs or rolling an old set, and then it's like, oh, that vesting is not correct, or that signature
Mhm.
block is not the correct signature block,
Right,
and they
right,
recorded it, and you're probably
right.
thinking, oh my goodness. So internally, when you're drawing loan documents, how does that? Say I was going to engage you to service or to draw loan documents for us. What do you need? Do you have a set checklist from a file? Do you have required documents you like your clients to send you? What does that process look like for you to start that doc drawing process?
They send us a completed doc order form, and then they just attach the fees from the title company and the prelim. And we like to get the loan application, but it's not required that we have it. The problem is if you don't have a loan application, the lender purchaser disclosure looks pretty empty, like in
Mm.
a very important part. But it is what it is. We just leave it blank, and it's on the broker to explain why it's blank to their lender. And we take the documents in, that's sent over, and then it goes into queue. And then we have one person does all the merges and does all the first touch on the documents, and then it's turned over to an auditor, and then an auditor will audit the entire set of documents.
Just effectively tick and tie. Call it a doc review checklist, tick and tie all the key points and to the file or the source
Yeah,
documents that were
well,
provided to
literally,
you.
it's like going through is the name right? Does this make sense? Does the payment amount that they gave us make sense? Does it is it an interest only or amortizing, but they give you the wrong amount, or their language is wrong? For example, the other day, someone sent over and said, "Hey, we have two extensions, therefore that makes this loan. You can have this extension three times." And like, no, you only get the extension twice. Therefore, you get your first 12 months, and then you get the next 2 months. And your loan isn't going, and you're telling me the loan's 36 months.
Yeah.
Therefore, the way you have it written, it looks like the loan is now 48 months. So we massage that kind of thing when we see that it doesn't make sense. That kind of stuff rolls through me. Staff doesn't really change that, but they'll come in and they'll ask the question, or I'm auditing. I don't audit like I used to the loan docs. I audit the hard one, the super hard ones. I audit when someone is out, or I audit when we have a huge number. We had a very large number this week. So I was auditing a lot this week. So I jump in, it is what it is, right? You do whatever you have to do. So if I work 12 or 14 hours in a day to make sure that work's rolling out, that's what's always going to happen. And again, that's that passion, right? Because
Yeah.
someone who doesn't have a passion, who says, I'm going to open a company, if you're not willing to do what that is, the work the 10, the work the 12, the work the 14 to make sure that your guarantees are met, then you can't do it.
But it's also when you want to bring on strong team members as well and give
Hmm.
them the confidence
Yeah.
that they need to perform at their highest and best every single day. And they need to know that, hey, I mean, not need. I mean, this is the mindset we take is I need to be able to do it myself. It's tough for me to go tell somebody to go do X, Y, Z if I'm not willing to do it myself. Or
Right.
heck, some of my team members want to take a vacation and go or be with their family. I call it life. Life happens. I
Right.
mean,
Hmm.
you're not taking a 3-month vacation, I'll tell you that. But they need to know that kind of team environment is there, and then jumping in to do that is not always easy, and but it's important, and it serves as quality control as well. And it sounds like you have the team behind you to where you have the confidence in them to self-review themselves, follow the checklist, they hold themselves accountable. And then if you just go in and spot check from here to here, it's just a
And even yesterday, I was changing things. Like
yeah,
I was auditing a couple. I went, you know what? We should tweak this or tweak that. So it's not every time I'm auditing a file, I'm going, I don't, let's tweak that language just a little bit, because then you're going into templates, right? And you're
yeah,
changing, 5 or 6 templates, because we have about 5 or 6 templates, and each one of them would need to be tweaked. But it's important for that ongoing mindset going, that sounded good then. I think the language could be a little better. Or 2 weeks ago, one of our clients is in a very large, they're in litigation. It was, it's a very interesting case. But anyway, there was a bankruptcy, and then she was an elderly woman, and then she sues the broker and for elder abuse, and then names us because we're the servicer, names us because we draw the loan docs. It is really, I say it's interesting, kind of frustrating, but when you look at the overall, it's interesting, right? And that's how you have to have a mindset. It's very interesting so that you can break it down, and not just get all wound up, inside your head with litigation. So anyway, he calls me and he says, I'm really angry that I'm out $150,000 in attorney's fees. And he goes, isn't there any way to collect it? I said, yeah, it's on this document that we have that they signed for you. It literally says that the attorney's fees that you incur shall be paid by the borrower. And I showed it to him. I broke it down, and then their attorneys came back for something else. And I said, look, our documents have this and this and this as all this backup to make sure that you get your default interest, that you get late charges after your maturity, and all of that. I go, it's all broken down. Here it is. And he went back to his attorney and said, oh my gosh, look, it says I get my attorney's fees. Again, it's going to be granted by the judge, or it's not, right?
yeah.
but the language was heavy in the document so that it showed that he
There's
was
no
able to
secrets. It's
pay.
not hidden. It's not like in the fine
No,
print. Like,
no. So
here it
it's
is.
pretty, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. It's interesting because there wasn't enough money to pay everybody, and there wasn't enough money to pay the bankruptcy trustees.
Oh, wow.
And they don't like that. I can
No.
assure you that they do not like that. But now I think they're going back in, and the judge is re-reviewing, and they have X amount held to the side to see, if it's going to come over here for the repayment of the default interest and the late charges after the balloon and his attorney's fees.
Yeah.
So, it just keeps that door open.
Well,
for
it's
them.
it's the little things. I mean, that's a very big
Mhm,
thing, but
mhm.
it's not something a borrower or a client's going to go in. I mean, we don't write loans thinking that we're going to be having to foreclose or that we're going to get sued, but it's not. The joke at CMA is not if, it's when, because
Right.
it no underwrite's perfect, no file's perfect, and life happens, and some things happen that are unfortunate to borrowers, or they're bad actors out there. Those are there as well, and they work the system, and you got to go through the process. But it's having the loan docs in place prior to that serves as your nothing's a safety net, but they're your backstop. And if
Sure.
you have inconsistencies in the loan documents, or there's a new court case or a new judge ruling that comes through that kind of skews how you would, let's say, foreclose on a property. So I want to go into that a little bit. I mean, the post-COVID era is made it extremely difficult on trustees, which one of your companies serves as trustees, in part of your loan servicing. What's been a big change post-COVID that has been a challenge to you as a trustee? The biggest one. There's a few, but what would you think has been the biggest challenge for you and your company?
I think the problem that we're having with 1079, SB 1079 came in and changed the foreclosure process where your sale isn't completed, at the end. And again, I'm not sure what year that came in, but we've been massaging it every year since then, which is part of when we went to the lobby day was, again, massaging SB 1079 in the foreclosure situation. And we just keep doing this because the bad actors are out there, the lawsuits are flying, the true bidders are angry, they're suing, um, they're trying to sue trustees, they're suing the buyers. It's much more than it ever was before. Do they really have a cause of action written in the code to sue us? Probably not. But they still do it. It's
But
still,
doesn't mean they won't. And then
yeah, exactly. So that's been a little bit of frustration. And the new one that I'm very concerned of is the new SB 2424, where they're talking about a 67% rule where you have to amend your bid. So if you have $1 million property and your loan payoff's only 500,000 and it's a 1-to-4, and remember that it still includes mixed use, you have to go 67% on your bid.
of value, of fair market
Yes.
value.
Yes. Okay. So now the war becomes, where did you get your fair market value? Well, the code specifically says how a lender can reach a fair market value. Well, I think it was too low. I think it was too high. Just another door that opens up to hurt lenders and trustees.
And that's got to affect the bidding process a little bit too, or is it not too much of an
But,
effect on the bid?
well, no one's going to bid at the 67%. They're just not going to. Typically, I'm not going to say never, because you can never say never, because you could have somebody
You took the
that
words right out of my mouth. I was going to cut you off and
never,
say,
but typically they're not going to bid because they know you're going to postpone the sale a week and you're going to open at the real bid.
Mhm.
So why pay 67% when you could get it at 50%
yeah,
LTV?
yeah, and then you have that, and then you have the challenges with 1079 that are also affecting the bidding process on the 1-to-4. And if we go too far down this rabbit hole,
Oh my
we will
God.
start drinking way too early on a Thursday. So
Yeah, unless I'm going to talk about the listing agreements coming in and giving another 45 days, and then the purchase contracts giving another 45 days. In our lender packages, we literally spell that all out for a lender and tell them that you could have a foreclosure that takes 295 days or something. I mean, it's a huge amount of time.
And that's the biggest, I mean, not challenge, but a big conversation I have when onboarding new trusted investors or even experienced ones. Be like, hey, it's not the foreclosure process like it was in 2013, or 2018 or 2019. There are these checks and balances we need to adhere to, and this is one of the main reasons why it's nice to kind of outsource loan servicing, because it changes so quickly. And I think I'm a believer that accounting always brings down the largest and most successful companies and its processes. So I think there is actually more risk in the loan process post closing than there actually is on your underwrite on the front end, just for how nuanced and quickly the laws have changed when it comes to loan servicing, proper notifications, timing, and making sure you're on it. And there's great value in being
I'll
having a
give you an
team like
example.
yours.
Just yesterday, and I hate to say this, but I'm going to be very frank. So we're ready to put an account foreclosure. I'm the last one that would review a file before putting the account foreclosure. And this balloon, the maturity date, had continually been put off 3 months at a time.
Were they documenting it or just kind of kicking it?
Nope, they documented 3 months at a time. Well, we send out our balloon payment notices at 120. So some people don't realize, but even on every owner occupied loan has to get a balloon payment notice if the loan is longer than 1 year. And it doesn't matter if it's a business purpose or a consumer loan. The code doesn't have a carve out for business. So you have to send these balloon payment notices. So as this loan is going 3 months at a time and it's all documented, it doesn't pick up in the system, right, to send a balloon payment notice. So I looked at it, and I'm looking for balloon payment notices when we're doing maturities, and we send them out on every loan. It doesn't matter whether it's a 1 to 4. It's just a habit at 120 at
Standardized.
30.
Send it out.
Every
We just
file
want to be
gets
able to
it.
say that we gave you notice.
Exactly. But on this one, it had to happen between 90 and 150. And because it had only been postponed, 90 days at a time, it didn't pick up on the way we send notices at 120. So had to contact the lender, say, you know what, I'm very sorry, but this is what's happened, and to keep you safe, we're not going to foreclose for maturity. We're going to foreclose for payments because the borrower was still delinquent payments. So let you get it started, and then, during that time period, it would mature. Hopefully he pays off. He had paid it down quite a bit. And the lender's been a lender for years. I mean, this lender years. So he was totally fine with it. He knows it's all about protection, and if someone had taken a loss, if it had been a big loan and they had taken a loss because of our delay, we step up to the plate.
Yeah.
And that's one thing, is we will step up to the plate and say, hey, you took a loss because of our delay. We're going to write you a check.
Yeah.
But but those kind of things can happen to even the best servicers, right? So that's the kind of thing, though, that could happen if you don't have someone who's in your servicing corner who really knows it, because they would have just put the account in foreclosure because it matured.
Then you're going to go through that process, and then they're going to lawyer up, and then you're going to unwind it and start all over, most likely. And then
exactly.
now
Or
that
not,
90
and
days.
go to sale. And I mean, if you go to sale, it's worse, because now you've gone to sale and you can't fix it.
And then,
So
especially in this day, it goes to sale. Then you have someone that acquires it at the auction, and then everything is nightmare.
Yeah. I always say it's your servicer or your foreclosure company or your doc company. They're only as good as when there's a claim made. So like your title company, right? Like your title company is only as good as when a claim's made. So when there's a problem, does your vendor step up? Like, do they say, hey, I'm going to take care of this. I'm going to re-record this. We're going to pay for this. We're going to, we'll do this for you, to make sure that they continue being a client, that that they're strong, financially and morally strong, and stand behind what they're doing for you. And when there's a glitch, they don't go, oh, not me.
Yeah. And it's just accountability and putting it is extremely hard to build your reputation. You will lose it overnight, and it happens a lot in this industry.
One deal
can
hurt you.
One deal, or just one bad conversation, or you don't carry yourself the right way. And nobody's perfect, but I think it's admitting that, hey, part of my French, we fucked up. Like, so this even though there is an error in process, here are the steps we are going to do to rectify it, and here are the
Exactly.
steps in place, because this is an anomaly on how this occurred. Here are
Right.
now the steps in place to catch it going forward.
Right.
And I think doing that is very important. We're going to pivot a little bit more here. Private money basics. California Mortgage Association, we put this on last October for the first time, and we're extremely fortunate to have you as a longtime member of CMA, past president, supporter, and you are also a sponsor. Would you mind highlighting how that private money basics went in October? No filter. This is not a question I gave you ahead of time. What was your feedback and take? Because you came in and spoke on a couple of very important topics, and you also sat in the crowd the entire day and grilled me a little bit. What was your take on that first private money basics?
I thought it was really informative. It was really fast. So if you're not a real fast I don't want to say thinker, but if you need to hear things a little bit slower and you need a lot more detail, this would have been difficult, but it was a great overview, right? So it would be something that you could send somebody who's not real new, because you don't want to send someone real new because it would be a little bit overwhelming, but if you have someone who's been with you like a year or two and they want the whole picture, right? They want to know everything from A to Z, and maybe it's you. Maybe you don't really know about foreclosure, or maybe you don't really know. Like I used to sell loans and I never serviced them. I just, I sell them, I don't service. There was that. There was marketing. There was how to get lenders. There was how to get borrowers. I mean, I thought it was so informative. And when you sit in a seminar all day, in my mind, if you take away one or two nuggets, that's always my goal when I go to all the CMA meetings, is one or two little golden nuggets as you're taking notes down, going, I'm going to change my docs because of that, or oh, I'm going to add that to my servicing, or if I was writing loans, oh, what a great way to market. I never thought of marketing that way. And there was a lot of tech involved with that as well. And you techie guys, who love tech. I mean, I love tech. I can't live without tech. I myself am not techie. I have people for that. But I'm good at analysis and ledge and a lot of other stuff, but tech is not one of them. As we started this, and my son who's in here, Chase, who a lot of you guys deal with, he's in here making sure everything's set up properly because he's in that wizardry age group. Although Kevin, he's a wizard too, and he's not in that age group.
No, absolutely. No, it was a very fast-paced day, and that's something Joffrey and I were talking about. And what we did for all the attendees, we offered a 1.5 hour Zoom meeting following up Private Money Basics, where everyone, if they wanted to, could jump on, ask us follow-up questions, and then also with that binder that we gave everyone, we wanted to make sure to give everyone the points of contact at each stage of the loan process, to where they could go call these 3 or 4 different attorneys, these 3 different loan servicers, these 3 different trustees, and it's really meant to be the true framework and
Right,
outline, and it is like drinking out of a fire hose, but it
right.
was a lot of fun. And anytime I'm looking into the crowd, and it's meant to be a classroom setting, we kept it at 55 people, and we're going to do it again next month and keep it at 55 as well. And it's important to give all the attendees the direct access to the service providers such as you in between the presentations and the breaks, as well
Right.
as the attorneys. And I think having that um, open communication back and forth was fun to see. Uh,
Did people take advantage of the hour and a half?
they did. I think we had about 30 people. 20 to 30 people came on after the 2 weeks afterwards for the follow-up Zoom and went through
Okay.
it, some follow-up questions that people
Right.
had, points of contact. That follow-up was heavy-handed on hazard insurance,
Gosh.
which was, we do go into that a little bit, but it was nice to see, and I think this is something we're going to continue going. And I know next month on June 19th, you graciously volunteered to sponsor again. So on behalf of the California Mortgage Association and all our members, thank you for stepping up to sponsor. And we're very excited to have it again. And we see it being a recurring annual type course that I think could
It's
always be kind
really
of
great. It's a
fine-tuned.
really great course. It really is. I can't recommend it highly enough to everybody. They should go get their own little nuggets out of it. It's very, there's not a dull moment.
Yeah.
There's not one slow speaker there. You're not sitting there going, oh, it's just like you're
It's like,
on it. You're in
like,
it.
oh shit, am I doing that? Okay, we're gonna go back. Okay, I get one last question for you, Liz. Complete 180 pivot. Who is Liz Knight? What do you do for fun when you're not in the office? When you're not working, what what do you like to do for fun outside of the office? And if you had one bucket list trip to do, expenses or don't matter, what would that trip be? So actually,
Well, the
two
next trip
questions.
we're planning is Japan.
Okay.
So that's our bucket list right now. Um, and that would be probably a no expense because I don't go on vacation very often. So I don't take a week off very often. I didn't take any weeks off last year. I did a phenomenal trip to Ireland the year before, and you just have to do it. It's hard for me to do it. It's hard for me to pull it away. And I got to tell you, I miss my crew. I don't worry about my crew. No, I don't worry about that they need me as much as I miss them. And I don't want to leave them in the lurch. You know what I mean? I don't want to feel like, they need me and I'm not there for them, but they can always reach me. But yeah, Japan's the next one. And then I golf with Kevin. I try to go every other week and I try to hold my own.
You
And I
take
always
his
tell
lunch money
myself,
out there on the course?
pardon me?
Do you take his lunch money out there on the course?
Not yet, but I'm working on it. I'm working on it. I work hard. I really like to do well in whatever I do. So it's like I really, I try not to get in my head too much, but that's a place where I won't touch my phone. I'm not picking up my phone to answer calls or look at texts or look at emails or any of that. When I'm on the golf course, I'm very present. When I'm out of the office, I am very present in what I'm doing. If I'm with friends, I would never take out a cell phone. Like I'm with Kevin eating dinner, I'm never going to do that because I find that's a very terrible habit that people have gotten into. I don't like it. I feel like it's very rude. And
Uh,
then my family have a great time with my grandkids. I now have three. We fly down to Orange County at least once a month. We try to do it more. We're flying down this weekend. It's my granddaughter's 8th birthday. And if any of you guys know Taylor Hubbard, that's my son. Those are his kids. So that's super fun. I love that. Chase is going. So if you try to get Chase to ride tomorrow, it's not happening. We're going down for the birthday party. So love being with my family. Mother's Day was fun. I had two out of the three boys, and one brought their girlfriend, and the other one couldn't bring his girlfriend because she was with her mom, and we had a great time, and a couple friends with us, and gardening. Like gardening for me is a big deal. Love gardening and we do a lot of hiking. I love to be outside. I'm not outside enough, but when I'm there, I'm up to my elbows with dirt, and I've got all the power tools, and yeah, I have a great time. And that's I just love that. Yeah.
I love it, Liz. Well, thank you again so much for one agreeing to jump in the hot seat with me for these last 45 minutes. I told you it'd go fast, and then also your unwavering support to CMA. I mean, it doesn't go unnoticed, and it's so greatly appreciated. And I had a lot of fun
I
chatting with
love
you.
CMA. I love CMA. It's like going home every time. We have so many friends there, and they're not just clients. They're friends. They're people I could pick up the phone. I could call them. I have my little group. We have our Mavens group. There's 5 of us women that like we'll have a situation and we all jump in and we all talk about it. So yeah, it's home. That CMA is home.
I
Second
love,
family.
I love it,
Third family.
and I will see you soon. I will see you
Okay.
next month.
All right. Thanks, Brad.
All right, Liz.
Bye bye.